Hi, everyone, and welcome back to English for You. I'm Erin.
I'm Elsie.
And we are talking about the story of Omelas. It's called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. And yesterday we finished off by learning about the people who walk away from this perfect city. I use perfect in quotes to show that it is not actually perfect. So, Elsie, if you had to live in the wild, how would you survive? Alone, it says alone in the wild.
Alone in the wild. Okay, so I don't have any friends with me. I don't have any family with me.
Maybe you can find somebody else
on the way
living, but like you're alone at first. Maybe you can find people after.
But do I have time to pack my stuff?
If you're walking away from Omelas, probably not.
No time to pack my stuff. Okay, so what can I do? What could I do to survive if I was alone in the wild? I would try to look for people.
On the way for looking for people?
On the way, yes. Hello, anybody there?
Well, maybe on the way to find people, Elsie, you're going to have to learn how to hunt.
Right.
And find food
or
and
I
water.
Will starve first.
Yeah. So we're both going to learn how to hunt. We're both going to learn how to
make
find
fire.
Food, make a fire, yeah. Make a safe place where you can sleep, all these sorts of things. But of course, we are not going to talk about people, their life after this. So let's find out what we are going to talk about here today in our article.
Reading. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas was written by American writer Ursula K. Le Guin in 1973. It was published during a time of great change. 8 years before, the U.S. had entered the Vietnam War, a very unpopular decision. This led to the rise of counterculture, a movement in which young people turned against traditional values. This heavily influenced Le Guin's work. Her paradise city, Omelas, is only able to be perfect because of the suffering of its child prisoner. This was supposed to represent Western society, which benefited from the suffering of the poor. This inequality raises another important question. How much will people ignore the pain of others in order to protect themselves? No one in Omelas tries to save the child. Instead, they convince themselves that the system is okay. One thing is for sure in Le Guin's world. Happiness comes at a price. What's more, the people of Omelas are prepared to pay for it.
All right, so our article starts out by telling us kind of where this story comes from. It says, The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas was written by American writer Ursula K. Le Guin in 1973.
这本书呢是在1973年，那是由一位美国作家 Ursula K. Le Guin 写成的。
That's a French name, I think. So maybe we're not pronouncing it properly. It might be Le Guin or Le Guin.
Okay.
Not really sure.
We tried.
We did try. Yeah. All right, let's move on. Interesting note, she only passed away a couple of years ago, actually.
Oh.
Yeah. But here, we're talking about the story. It was published during a time of great change.
Publish 这个动词是出版，那这边带到的是呢，这本书是在巨大的时代变动下出版的。
All right, so this story kind of came about after something important happened in the U.S. It says, 8 years before, the U.S. had entered the Vietnam War, a very unpopular decision.
所以这本书写成的8年前，也就是1965年，美国加入了越战。So, 这个决定 the decision was very unpopular.
That's right.
非常不受到欢迎。
So this decision to enter the war was not really a thing that people liked. We don't have the time to go into the whole of the Vietnam War, but you can always go onto Google and look up kind of what happened there. But what we're saying here is that it was a decision that people didn't like. Now, a decision is something that you choose to do after thinking about it for some time. For example, I don't know if I should go to university or get a job first. This is such a tough decision. So here, we're just saying that we have two choices and we choose one. And when we do that, we make this decision.Decision
这个名词呢就是决定，那我们要做决定的话，搭配的动词是 make a decision 做决定。那决定本身呢还有一个动词哦，是 decide， 大家都知道 decide to do something 决定做某事。 For example, I decided to go to bed at 11 p.m. every night.
Good job.
Okay, I hope I can really go to bed at 11 p.m. every night. Okay.
Once you start doing it, you'll get used to it.
All right. So back to the article. The American government at that time decided to join the Vietnam War, which was unpopular and led to some problems.
That's right. Okay, so all of this happening, all of these problems coming up, it says here in the article, this led to the rise of counterculture, a movement in which young people turned against traditional values. Now, the phrase lead to, or when A leads to B, basically means that A causes B to happen. So here we're saying that entering the Vietnam War and all of these problems that arose caused some people to stop following some old traditions. Here's another example. You should keep writing poems. It could lead to you becoming a famous writer someday.
所以同学这边要注意哦，当我们看到 A lead to B， 代表的是 A 促成 B 或是 A 导致 B 这个结果。那美国加入越战的决定导致了 counterculture 反文化运动，年轻人呢群起抗议。And counterculture was a movement. Movement 在此表示的是致力于共同目标的运动团体或者是运动，所以文中提到的是反文化运动。那在这个反文化运动当中呢 they turned against traditional values.
Now, when you turn against something or someone, you stop liking or supporting that thing when you of course, used to like or support them a lot. Now, you can also cause other people to turn against something or someone else. Here's an example. The voters all turned against the president when she stopped a law allowing gay people to marry.To
turn against somebody or something 代表的是反目或是背弃某人或者是某事。And what are traditional values?
Well, the adjective traditional describes something that's been happening for a long time and is very important to people's cultures. Now, before the Vietnam War, traditional values were to do things the government said were right and always obey, maybe women always obeying their husbands and children always obeying their parents, that sort of thing. However, many people believed that the war was wrong. And of course, that believing that this war was wrong, they sort of stopped believing that the government was always right or always doing the right things. Now, of course, around that time, it was also traditional to join the military for important wars. But during this time, people tried to stop doing this too.Here's an example. My mom likes to make traditional Spanish food when guests come over for dinner.
Traditional 这个形容词是传统的，那它的名词呢，同学们要会，我们在字尾把 al 去掉就可以了，变成 tradition. So we can say it's our family tradition to clean the whole house before Chinese New Year's Eve. 这个是我们的家庭传统。那传统的价值观，我们用到就这两个字 traditional values. 所以文章说到的是当时年轻人抗议的就是传统价值观。
All right, so these sort of traditional values and now the counterculture against the traditional values. Counterculture, basically, you can see what it means. Counter is like opposite, you know, so it's
相反,
like
反对.
Opposite culture is what we're saying
right.
here. So these things happened and they started Le Guin sort of noticed them, and it says this heavily influenced Le Guin's work. Now, influence here is a verb, and when you influence somebody or something, you affect the way they feel or think about something, and they do something to show that they've changed or that they believe in something. Here's an example. Martin says that his favorite singer, Lady Gaga, influenced him to become a songwriter himself.Influence
在我们的文章跟例句中都是动词的用法是影响，那它本身呢也是可以当名词来用的比如说 a positive influence 代表就是正面的影响，那负面的我们会说 a negative influence.
Okay, so we see here about where her city comes from. It says, her paradise city, Omelas, is only able to be perfect because of the suffering of its child prisoner.Now, we talked about the verb suffer in day 2 of our article. Let's now talk about the noun suffering. Now, this is a time when you feel a lot of physical or mental pain. Someone who's locked away without food, for example, is feeling a lot of pain, both mental and physical. So we could say that they're experiencing great suffering. Here's another example.These people have lived through 7 years of terrible war. I can't imagine their suffering.
在我们之前的文章我们学过了 suffer 这个字哈，它是动词，那这边看到的是在它的字尾加上 ing 变成 suffering 名词的形式，表示痛苦或是折磨。那作者笔下的欧麦拉氏能够如此完美，都是因为这个被囚禁的孩子的痛苦。
Okay, so if we look at that city or that sentence again, we can see basically that the child is suffering, right? And this child's suffering leads to the counterculture. And in our story, the counterculture are the people who walk away.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So it goes on to say this was supposed to represent Western society, which benefited from the suffering of the poor.Now, when something is supposed to do something, or when A is supposed to be or do B, it is meant or expected to do that thing. So here we're saying this story is meant to represent sort of Western life. As another example, we could say, this party is supposed to be a surprise, so don't say anything.
Be supposed to 后面再加一个原形动词，代表的是应当或是一般认为。那欧麦拉城市应当代表的是西方的社会，那这个被囚禁的孩子呢，则是代表穷人。The Western society benefited from the suffering of the poor.
That's something that's been happening for thousands of years, actually. We're
still happening now.
Still haven't fixed it. All right, so what's happening here? We're saying the Western society benefited from the suffering of the poor. Now, if A benefits from B, A improves the life of B or makes things better or easier for B. So the child's pain makes life better for everyone else. They're all benefiting from the child's pain. Or if we think about this sentence here, Western society, think about how the rich make the work or make the poor do all of the work and the rich get all the money, right? So that's what we're saying here is that the Western societies or the rich, they benefit or they improve, but the poor don't improve, basically.
The poor still suffer.
Right. So here's the example sentence. This new treatment should benefit many people who are living with this disease.Benefit
这个动词是受益或是得到好处，那从哪边受益，从哪个人身上得到好处，我们会说 benefit from， 解释为因某人事物而获得好处。那西方社会因为穷人的痛苦与磨难而有表面上的富庶和祥和。
Okay, so we're seeing here that the Western society and the poor are not really equal, right? Or the child is not equal to the people in Omelas. So it says here, this inequality raises another important question.
Equality 它是平等，那前面加个 inequality 那就是不平等的意思。那这样的不平等掀起了另外一个重要的问题。What is the question?
Okay, well, the question here in the article says, how much will people ignore the pain of others in order to protect themselves?
good question.
Yeah, it is a good question. Makes you think about your own life as well.
Yeah, this article just makes me think about so many things.
Right, all right. So, will people ignore the pain of others? Now, what is pain? Pain, this noun, can be physical when something in or on your body hurts. Like if you break your arm, you will feel pain. Or pain can be mental, such as when you're very sad or angry about something, or you're feeling badly in some way mentally. These emotions are making you feel pain. Two different examples here. Can you tell me more about the pain in your stomach? That's physical pain. Or mental pain. Ben doesn't want to talk about the pain of losing his mother.
Pain 这个名词呢是痛苦或是悲痛，那我们在字尾加上 ful 就变成 painful， 那它就是一个形容词，痛苦的或是疼痛的。那我们还看到一个片语是 in order to.
That's right. Okay, so will people ignore the child's pain or the poor's pain in order to protect themselves? So in order to, when you do something in order for something else to happen, you want that other thing to happen. So you do something to try to make it happen. So here, the people are ignoring the child so that they can protect themselves. They're making something happen for them by doing something to somebody else. Here's another example. In order to play this game, you have to pay $399 a month.
In order to 带出一个原形动词，代表的是为了要达到某目的。那文章说到，人们会忽略他人多少的痛苦，进而来达到保护自己的目的呢？
Okay, so here we learned in the story, no one in Omelas tries to save the child. We saw that they either walk away
right.
or they just stop caring, right?
没有人会想要去试着救这个孩子。Nobody wants to ruin the perfect world, right?
Perfect world. Well, some people think that they realize that the world isn't perfect, but they don't know how to fix it, so they just walk away from it.
Right.
It says here, instead, they convince themselves that the system is okay.
我们先看到这边的动词 convince， 这个动词是说服的意思。那再来我们要先看英文练功房咯，我们要看到 instead 跟 instead of 到底该怎么用。那第一个我们要先讲到的是副词 instead， 它是反而或是取而代之的意思，可以置于句首、句中或者是句尾。那杂志上例句说到呢， Grant suggested getting pizza, but Victor thought they should have cold noodles instead. Grant 建议订 pizza， 但是 Victor 认为应该点冷面，也就是要用冷面去取代 pizza。 那第二个，如果我们用到片语 instead of， 那这个of 它是一个介系词哦，所以后面呢，你必须接上名词或是动名词，表达的意思是什么呢？是并非而不是。For example, Karen prefers to see action movies instead of romantic films， 也就是她喜欢的是看动作片，而不是爱情片。那在欧麦拉城里面呢，没有人要救那位小孩，取而代之的是他们说服自己这样的制度是没有问题的。那这样的句子我们也可以把它改写为 Instead of trying to save the child, people in Omelas convince themselves that the system is okay.
All right. Well, here is where that problem kind of gets to be even bigger for us. It says, one thing is for sure in Le Guin's world, happiness comes at a price. Now, for sure here in the sentence just means certain or definite. So one thing is certainly sure in Le Guin's world. Now, I know one thing for sure. As we could say an example, I know one thing for sure. This is the worst restaurant I've ever been to. So if I'm saying for sure in that sentence, it means it's definitely the worst.
And I better not go there.
No.
For sure 这片语就是确定的事。那确定的事呢，在作者的世界当中，有一件事情是确定的，那就是快乐是有代价的。 Happiness comes at a price.
That's right. You got to pay for that happiness. There's no perfect world. It says here, what's more, the people of Omelas are prepared to pay for it. Now, of course, the phrase what's more is used to add more information to something we just said. Now, there are other instances of this phrase. We could use what's better to introduce good information, or what's worse to introduce bad information. Here's an example. I went to Sapporo for my vacation. What's more, I got to visit some very nice hot springs.
What's more, 它带出的就是更多的资讯，所以我们解释为再者或者是而且。那文章最后呢，说到再者，欧麦拉的人民已经准备好要付出代价了。They are ready to pay for it.
That's right. They don't, they want to be happy. They want life to be perfect. And so they say, okay, well, if this one child is going to live in such suffering, then we'll do it. We're not going to try to save this child. We don't want to live in a terrible world. So I guess that's the price of happiness. But we have one more For You Chat question. Let's get to that.
For You Chat.
All right, our For You Chat question today. Do you agree with Le Guin's idea that happiness comes at a price? Why or why not?
I think it depends on how you define happiness.
Okay.
If you define happiness, if you think happiness comes from good clothes, good shoes, good houses, good cars, then of course you have to pay for those
Fast
things,
fashion,
right? Yeah, if you think happiness comes from being with your family or your friends, I don't think there's any price for it.
Yeah, I mean, there shouldn't be, and ideally, right? I agree with you, Elsie. I think that, of course, if we're going to continue to live in a world that's defined by the things we own and the things that we want to have and our smartphones, then we have to realize that the pollution that from making our phones and our clothes that goes into the water and the air, and if we want to keep having nice cars that aren't electric or kind of use oil and gas, and if we keep wanting plastic products, then we have to realize that our world is going to disappear, and someday other people aren't going to live with this happiness, right? So we have to come to terms with that, or we can start figuring out how to live differently and how to be happy in
without those
things.
Stuff.
So be happy in a different way, right? And that's where it comes from our family and our friends. If we can be happy with what we have and happy with the people around us, then maybe we'll have to pay a little bit less of a price. All right. Well, what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with us? Do you guys agree with Le Guin? Why or why not? You guys can talk about this, and maybe we can start figuring out how to move forward. But we have to end our article today, so we'll see you again next month. For now, bye-bye.
Bye.
The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas. The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas was written by American writer Ursula K. Le Guin in 1973. It was published during a time of great change. 8 years before, the U.S. had entered the Vietnam War, a very unpopular decision. This led to the rise of counterculture, a movement in which young people turned against traditional values. This heavily influenced Le Guin's work. Her paradise city, Omelas, is only able to be perfect because of the suffering of its child prisoner. This was supposed to represent Western society, which benefited from the suffering of the poor. This inequality raises another important question. How much will people ignore the pain of others in order to protect themselves? No one in Omelas tries to save the child. Instead, they convince themselves that the system is okay. One thing is for sure in Le Guin's world. Happiness comes at a price. What's more, the people of Omelas are prepared to pay for it.
Vocabulary Review. Decision.
I had to think about this for a long time before making my decision. Traditional. In this part of the country, many people still follow the traditional ways of life. Influence. The artist's work was greatly influenced by the mountains surrounding her hometown. Suffering. Max doesn't like hospitals because of all the suffering that happens there when people are very sick. Benefit. Hank feels like he benefited from his time in the military. It got him in shape and taught him responsibility. Pain. The pain John felt in his broken arm was clear from the look on his face.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net